Today is the 22nd of Adar. We have a double header this week. This past Shabbos I was invited to speak by NC Swar, the Yarchei Kala. Lisa was there. I was asked to speak to a group of primarily public school students about Shabbat, and it's one of my favorite topics. And one thing that I began to realize when I often talk to even students who have a stronger background is they get very confused about Shabbos, and I mean confused from a Chumash perspective. So if we had more time, I'd play this game with you, and I would ask you to tell me all the places in the Torah where Shabbos is mentioned, and then we'd be like, where is it mentioned? But then I would give you the handout afterwards. But you have the handout in front of you, so it kind of removes the excitement. So I from an educational perspective, so I always get to do it the opposite way, but whatever, it's fine. We'll be a little bit faster this way. So the first time Shabbos is mentioned is where? Just look down a piece of paper. Is where? Okay, the end of. Say it aloud, don't be embarrassed. End of creation. End of creation. It's very important. Just as an aside, if you were the one who were making chapters, by the way, the chapters, the prakim that were done in Chumash were done by who? Done by Priest Langston, right? In the 12th to the 13th century. Not done by Jews. Prakim are not Jewish at all. They were done by the Christians. The Jews adopted them simply because when you want to debate Christians, you can't say, column 6 doesn't help you so much. The only authentic way to break down Chumash is by. So be very careful when you say Parshas. What does that mean, Parshas? Like when I say this is Parsha, is what? Vaka Bakude. Is that authentic?
Or like events.
What?
Like events, like Parsha.
Okay, so let's. This is really important. We got to know these things, people. To say that this is Parsha, or in this case, the double header, Vaka Bakude, is not so authentic. That is modern. It's only 1,000 years old. There was a time in Yerushalayim they finished the Chumash. How long? Every 3 years. Well, Leighton is pretty short. So you only finish Chumash, the Torah, every 3 years. That's not what they did in Bavel. We adopted Minhag Bavel, was to finish the Chumash every year. That's a holiday called Simchas Torah, which is a modern holiday. Right? Did you mention the Chumash of finishing the Torah? No. It's modern. It's only about 1,000 years old. It's a wonderful topic. How did it happen? For another time. How did they break down Chumash? Not Parshios, but Parshia. You ever seen a Parsha Psucha and a Stuma before? You know what that looks like? You have these little paragraphs in Chumash. Is there a Tanakh Koren on the bookshelf? No, I think it's in my office. So, you see there's a little Samech. Sometimes you see a Pei. Those are blank spots. You open up a Sefer Torah, you see blank spots. Sometimes the rest of the row is empty and it starts with the next line. That's a Parsha Psucha. It's open. Then if Stuma, it leaves 8 spaces, 8 letters, and then it continues writing it. Those are authentic ways, not so exciting, not so glamorous, I'm sorry. Those are the only authentic ways to break down Chumash. Those are real breaks, and in fact, the Rambam writes, if a Sefer Torah is written, and the Sefer misses out on a space, Sefer Torah is not kosher. There's Baruch Hu Tat Moshe, paragraph by paragraph, so to speak. By the way, some of those paragraphs are 2 words, so 2 words, 1 Parsha. So, and that's, by the way, according to Chumash, not even a full pasuk. We read it like a full pasuk. So, what I'm trying to say is, breaking it down by prakim are not authentically Jewish, and the first time the Christians did it, they made a mistake. Take a look. What is the first source? Perek Beis, pasuk Aleph. Why in the world do they put Shabbos in Perek Beis? It's clear Shabbos should be in Perek Aleph. No? For sure it is. It uses the same word of God, right? The word Elokim is mentioned. For sure belongs to Perek Aleph. Why do they do it that way? As theological reasons. They view Sabbath as not part of the week, as broken off. The Jewish approach to Shabbos, by the way, is, what's the purpose of Shabbos? Shabbos gives meaning to the days of the week. Shabbos is not necessarily an ideal. Can you believe it? How do I know this? Olam Haba. Is Olam Haba an ideal? Not necessarily. Meaning, Shabbos, as we know it, if the goal is Shabbos, the goal is not to be creative. We're going to talk about that. Right? That's not necessarily our goal. We'll see if we can get there. We'll come back. So, source number 1. Where's the second time Shabbos is mentioned? Source number 2. Where's that? What parsha is it in? Source 2. It's right in front of you. If you need more sources, you got tons of sources. Why are you saying, go grab a chair? You sure? I got to show my office you can take. So what's source number 2? What's the context? What's the context? Source number 2. First pasuk. What does it say? Lechem Mishnah. Okay, that's great. Where's Lechem Mishnah talking about? Man. Is this before Matan Torah? Is this before Yisro? Yes or no? Yes, before. Parshas Beshalach. Parshas Beshalach. After the splitting of the Wata. Right? The splitting of the sea. We get the man. What's the connection to man in Shabbos, everybody? Look at Pasuk Chavtes, like a Pasuk Lamed. What does God say about the man? Man will fall every day. What day will it not fall on? Shabbos. What will happen on Friday? Double portion. Why double portion? One for Friday, one for Shabbos. So why do we have Lechem Mishnah on Shabbos? How many times does the man fall on Shabbos? None. So why was Lechem Mishnah on Shabbos? Should have Lechem Mishnah on Friday, no? That's not my question. Mishabur asks this, introduction to Ilchat Shabbos. He says, why do you have Lechem Mishnah for? You should ever heard that before on Friday morning, guys. When you eat lunch, have Lechem Mishnah. That's what it should be, no? That's what it felt twice. Lechem Mishnah probably is not because of the double portion of man. It's because of the Neshama Yesera. There's a connection in Judaism between spirituality and physicality. When you have extra spirituality, it needs to be fed physically. That's the relationship between the two. This is Judaism, not Christianity. They're about to choose the new pope one of these days. Okay. Others argue that it is because of twice Mashman that the Baracha of Friday, that's what we're remembering on Shabbos. Two different ways of understanding it. Next, what's the third time that Shabbos is mentioned in Chumash? That's really famous. Look at source 3. What's source 3? Come on, guys. People, wake up. What's source 3? Source of Dibros. Wonderful. Right? Next, source 4 and 5. What are sources 4 and 5? 4 is last week, 5 is this week's Parsha. What are they? Mishkan related. No? Shabbos by Mishkan. Turn the page. Okay, 6, 7 is Ramban, 8 is a Gemara, 9 is a Megillah, 10. Next. 11. Well, 11 really is a very short mention of Shabbos. We'll come back to that later. What is 12? So 12 is also related kind of to Mishkan, so we kind of said that already. The next real mention of Shabbos, 12 is actually complicated. 12 is actually after Chet Egel. I don't know if we'll get time to talk about that. 13 is what? What's the context of 13? Second set of Luchos. Wonderful. Good. How many times is that? Is Shabbos mentioned in Torah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a lot. It beats kashrus. Beats everything. There's no other mitzvah in Chumash. Well, that's not totally true. I take that back. Like Vavdat the Ger is mentioned also, like a lot of times. There are very few mitzvos in Chumash that are mentioned as often. For sure, there's a different context. Shabbos takes the cake, because there's a Sefer Bereshis, man. There's so many mitzvos that are mentioned, and Shabbos is one of them. What's going on here? So if you were studying in university in Jewish studies class, say, different authors. That's why there's, different Shabboses. Right? But that's not authentic learning. Authentic learning is trying to understand what really is the intent. What's going on here? Why would God, and if it was to break up Shabbos into components, and not only that, but introduce totally separate ideas of what Shabbos means? Let's start with the most obvious difference. Let's compare the Luchos of Shemos to Devarim. What new aspect is introduced in source 13 that is not mentioned in 3? So take a look at 3 and take a look at 13. So the obvious one is Zachor versus Shamor, but there's a problem. You know what the problem is? Shamor is mentioned. Where is Shamor mentioned in Chumash about Shabbos? Let's translate words. What literally is Zachor? Zachor Hashem Shabbos L'Kaddisho. What it literally was Zachor mean? To remember. How did Chazal understand to remember? Is that like a conscious thing in my head? No, what do we say? Zachreu b'dvarim, we say Kiddush. There's a biblical mitzvah to recite Kiddush. Now, I can recite Kiddush by saying what? Shabbat Shalom. By saying the word Shabbat Shalom, I fulfill a biblical mitzvah of Zachor Hashem Shabbos L'Kaddisho. Chazal said, by the way, make Kiddush, do it over wine. That's the Rabbanan. It could be you've already fulfilled your Doraisa. Most people have said Good Shabbos already, right? Shabbat Shalom, people have said that already, and therefore they have fulfilled their Doraisa, which is why before the husband can come home and make Kiddush with the family, the wife and the ladies for sure have to say the words Shabbat Shalom already. Right? For sure Shabbat Shalom, Good Shabbos. It's like this. For sure Shabbat Shalom. So, why am I saying all this? Zachor Hashem Shabbos is Zachreu b'dvarim. We fulfill this over wine or by using our mouths. It's a long tkiya. I have no idea what that means. Now, that is wonderful. But where do we see Shamor Shabbos L'Kaddisho? So that is in source 13. Where do we see a source of the words V'Shamru and Shabbos? That we just read. I'm sure you all heard it in Shul the other day, and you hear it at Kiddush regularly. Look at the end of source 4. V'Shamru b'nei Yisrael Shabbos La'aseh. Right, by Kiddush. That's where it comes from, by the Mishkan. So the concept of Shamor. What is Shamor? How do the rabbis understand Shamor? Shamor literally means to watch, to guard. So how do you do that exactly? How do you do that on Shabbos? By Zachar is with words. What's the Shamru? Actions. What are the actions? We have mitzvah aseh, right? How do you do it? V'Shamru. So what do you do to fulfill the mitzvah of V'Shamru? Sorry, so V'Shamru probably is the negative aspect of Shabbos, meaning don't do malachas. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You know why? Because what's the context of all the malachas of Shabbos? What's their context? Where they found in the Mishkan, and V'Shamru of the Shabbos is by the Mishkan. That's the end of source 4. We'll come back to that hopefully a little bit later. Let's go on. Let's continue reading source 13. You know what? Let's play a game. I'm going to read source 13. You guys are all going to look at 3. And you're going to tell me when there's a difference, just raise your hand, okay? I'll read 13. Shamor Shabbos L'Kaddisho. Kasher tzivcha Hashem Lokacha. Alright, it's a fun game here. Now, what is Kasher tzivcha Hashem Lokacha? How would you understand what that's referring to? That's referring to what? Maybe the first time. There's a problem with that. Does it say that phrase by every single one of the Dibros? No. Why by Shabbos does it mention it? That's why I understand Rashi. What does Rashi say? No, this was given earlier. Sivcha before Matan Torah. Shabbos was given before Matan Torah, wasn't it? I just read that. It's called the Man. Mara. Okay. Next pasuk. Sheishis Yamim Tavod v'Sizakom Lachdecha. Any differences? So far, so good. V'Yamai Shishabas Hashem L'Kacha. Lo Sasa Komalacha. Ata Bilcha B'Techa Avdecha Mascha V'Tishoncha V'Cham Marcha V'Chol B'Mtecha V'Gercha V'Shvecha L'Man Yenuach Avdecha V'Mascha Kamocha. Any differences? Good. What are the differences? All of a sudden, animals are being mentioned. That's strange. It gets even stranger with the next pasuk. By the way, how much is left of your Shabbos? You have, what's your next pasuk? Shesh Yamim, right? God created the world. Look what happens though in Dvarim. V'zacharta ki eved hayisa bi eretz Mitzrayim vayotziach Hashem lokecha misham berchazaka b'zunetuya al ken siv Hashem lokecha lasos es Yom HaShabbos. Nothing about creation. Zero. Gurnished. Nada. What's going on here? When it comes to source of Dibros and Shemos, it's all about God created the world. What is the emphasis in Dvarim? On you were a slave in Egypt. What am I talking about, man? That's like Pesach. What is Shabbos Pesach? What's going on? V'zacharta ki eved hayisa be'eretz Mitzrayim. And that's why God took you out. That's why you should keep Shabbos. That's why you should keep Shabbos. I thought I keep Shabbos because of God created the world in 6 days. What's going on here? It's so strange. Go to source. We already read source 3. Oh, there we go. Look at 5. Look at the way in the beginning of our parsha opens up this way. Look at the language, pasuk base. Sheishis yamim taseh melacha, v'yomashi yelachem kodesh shabbason shabbos l'Hashem kol asov v'melacha yumaz. What does that sound like to you? God created 6 days, and He rested on 7 days. What's going on here? Why do we keep Shabbos? Is it because God created the world, or is it because of not abusing slaves? What's the answer? What's the answer? Yeah, just both! Things that are really important in life are multifaceted. Anything which can be reduced to some simplistic reason is simple. Most things are multifaceted, no? Why do you daven? I can give you 6 different reasons why you do it. Why do you go to school? Why are you all staring at me right now? Right? They're all different. Everything we do is multifaceted. Shabbos is multifaceted. That's the beauty. And you all know this intuitively because I've experienced Shabbos. Shabbos can't be reduced to one dimension. Shabbos is multidimensional. That's the beauty of Chumash. Now what we have to understand is, why is this dimension being emphasized here? That's the real question. You all know the answer to this. Why in Sefer Dvarim does Moshe Rabbeinu have to say, you were a slave in Egypt, don't forget? Why doesn't he mention that in the book of Exodus? What's the answer? It just happened! It doesn't remind them. We were just in, Egypt. That place stinks. We were just there a few weeks ago. But this is 40 years later. It's more than just that. I think you're right. More to it than that. But good. He doesn't remind them. Oh, it's actually not true. Why is it that this refrain, V'zacharta ki ever hayisa be'eretz Mitzrayim, is only mentioned in Chumash in many different contexts? By loans, by Pesach, by Shavuos, by Shabbos. Do you know why? Very simple. What's going to happen in Sefer Devarim? After Moshe speaks, how long is Sefer Devarim? Approximately? How long? 7 days. Sefer Devarim begins with first day of Adar. When does Moshe die? On 7th day of Adar. 1 week. Shortest Sefer in Chumash. Right? I mean, it's not, but it is. Chronologically, it's the shortest Sefer in Chumash. 1 week. Think about it. How long is Bereshit? I mean, thousands of years, right? How long is Shmos? That's a really good question. How long is Shmos? When did Shmos begin? Sorry. But is that the end of Bereshit? That's also, it's the same event, right? Twice. But let's fast forward. When do they start building the Mishkan? I talked about this last week a little bit. When do they start building the Mishkan? According to everybody, Rashi, Ramban, no machlokas. When do they start building the Mishkan? Right after? Really? Building. When does Moshe say, I need your money? Give me your money. Give me your gold. Give me your silver. When do they start building? After Chedei goes in July. Chedei goes Rosh Hashanah. When they start building the Mishkan? After Yom Kippur. Beautiful. When do we start building our sukkahs? At Yom Kippur. No, it's the same thing, right? Beautiful. So we're told to build the Mishkan after Yom Kippur. We've got to collect everything. When does this project, what month is that approximately in the calendar? I mean, in Hebrew it's not approximate, but in English it's, let's say, September. Right? Or in Hebrew that's called the 11th day of Tishrei. When does this project get finished? When's we're ready to go? Rosh Chodesh? Nisan. How many months is that? 5.5 months. We assume it wasn't a leap year that year. Okay, 5.5 months. So 5.5 months it took. That's a long time. It's a big project, no? By the way, by the end of Shmos, it's ready. End of Shmos is ready to go. How long is Sefer Vayikra? No time. There's actually no time in Sefer Vayikra. Sefer Vayikra is timeless. Because it starts off by saying Vayikra and Moshe. Moshe's called in. What day is he called in? Probably when the Mishkan's ready to go. What day is that? Rosh Chodesh. What day does Nadav and Avihu die? That day, no? And then what were the other mitzvahs? Okay, very difficult. Vayikra might be no time at all, chronologically. But Sefer Bamidbar opens up the exact same day as the end of Shmos. But you all knew that. At the end of Shemos is just to say the next day could also be the beginning of Bamidbar. There's also Sefer Vayikra. It's very important. Otherwise, you get the whole Chumash. It's a big children. Like, what's going on? What day are we? Where are we? Right? These things are really important to understand. And the problem is in high school, what do they do? Every year is a different Sefer. Right? So and they don't even start. Who learns Bereshit in grade 9? Nobody. Bereshit is in grade 12. So now you're really confused. Most Jewish schools, Tiferes actually switched, I believe. They switched. Everyone does the same Sefer, no? Right? It's a Chiddush at Tiferes. It's really a much better system. Most schools don't do that. Most schools are grade 9 Shemos, grade 12 is Bereshit, and then kind of like the other 2 years are like a children. They wrote it. Some schools do one versus the other. But it's a disaster for understanding what Chumash looks like. It's so confusing. Where are we? Kids have no idea what's going on. Right? So, if we're talking about this event where Moshe is gathering the people, they're told to build the Mishkan, it happens right after Yom Kippur. But when is Moshe speaking in Sefer Dvarim? That last week of his life. And what in theory is supposed to happen after Moshe dies? What's going to happen the following day or the next day? What should happen? They're going to go into Eretz Yisrael, right? Yeshua is going to take over, and Moshe is gone. Now, when they're going to enter Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Canaan, what's going to happen? What do you do? You enter Eretz Canaan. What do you need to do? You need to conquer the land. What do you have to fight and you conquer? What do you need to do after that? Settle the land, and then I don't know, set up a country, a government. I don't know, like what other normal countries do, right? Now, what's a great danger when you have your own country, and you have your own sovereignty, and you have your own power? Forget Hashem. We're like, what? Civil war. Okay, could happen. We're really strong and powerful, and now we could do whatever we want to people, right? We're in control. So what does God say? V'zacharta ki ever hayisa be'eretz Mitzrayim. You know what it's like to be a slave. Don't, when you're in a position of power, which is going to be next week, don't do that to other people. Meaning, the whole purpose of our experience in Egypt was so that we know what it's like to suffer, so we make sure that other people don't suffer. It's used as a sense of inspiration, not guilt, and more importantly, not as an excuse. There are those who say we suffered, and therefore we deserve X and Y. That's not a Jewish concept. The Jewish concept is we suffered, and what does God say? Now make sure people don't suffer. V'zacharta ki evarista. Now you understand. So why is Moshe only going to mention this now? Because only next week they could actually be in a position to make other people suffer. So Sefer Devarim is all about preparing the people for the land of Israel. What do they need to know? I got to distill Chumash, right? And so, okay, what really do I need to emphasize to this new generation? And Moshe says, isn't that cool? Makes a lot more sense, no? Otherwise, by the way, if you understand that, every single quote-unquote contradiction except for the Devarim makes absolute sense. If you understand the whole function of the Devarim is what does Moshe have to teach the next generation? And what has to be emphasized? What does he cut away? What's important? What matters? The people who didn't experience things alive, what does he teach their children? And what's going to matter, because the next week they're starting their own land, their own country, their own nation. If you understand that, and that's, by the way, the biblical scholars don't understand that because they don't think like Chumash. They think like scholars. Okay. We solved one problem. The emphasis on Shabbos, there's no question, is a social justice dimension to it. You cannot work? No, you can't work. Imagine this idea, by the way. Imagine you started a company, and by the way, all workers get 70% of the year off for vacation. Now, you're all like, that's not a big deal. We got Saturdays and Sundays and summers. No, that's not the way it was in the ancient world. Right? In the Torah, you must give all of your workers 17% vacation. That's pretty amazing, no? That's unbelievable. That's unheard of. They cannot work for you. So that's what it says in Torah. They cannot work for you. Right? Okay, so what do we do? How do we have someone clean up the shul? Okay, there's all these things we have to create, and how do you pay them? But again, they can't do malacha for you. You know that. There are those who can hold that to Doraisa. Probably not. It's probably the Rabbanan. I'm rather Nachri. Can't tell a non-Jew to work for you on Shabbos. Can't do malacha. You close your businesses. Okay, you all know that. So Devarim we understand. Devarim, the emphasis is on to prepare the next generation having to do with Shabbos. I don't think we appreciate how much of a chiddush that is to to give people and animals 17% vacation. That's unheard of. Let's go to the beginning. Originally, Shabbos in source number 1. What's the emphasis of Shabbos in source number 1? Are we told to do anything? No, there are no Jewish people to tell. What do we know about Shabbos in source number 1? What's the only thing we know? Creation. It is creation connected. 7 days, 7th day being the day that God. What does that God didn't create? What does it mean? Is it like set back in a launch? What does it mean in create? This is quite complicated, but I think the easiest way to understand it is something that I heard. Wow, I was in grade 9, so that was in the late 80s. Whoa. And it was Rabbi Malevsky, tried Or Samech, passed away many years ago. I don't know what I was actually like. Who in grade 9 actually remembers and pays attention to these things? I don't know. I did. It just left a lasting impression on me with things I remember. And he said Shabbos is essentially what we'd say. He allowed nature to take its course, meaning for the first 6 days God is active in creation, and on day 7 nature runs its course, sunrise, sunset. So the first 6 days was more engagement in the active creation process. It comes Shabbos, and that active engagement of a new creation ceases to exist. The truth is, once later on I began to learn about this, it's actually not so simple to say that, because it is a Machloket Rashi Ramban over the nature of creation, but that's for another time. There's a new creation every single day, or just creation right in the beginning, and then the universe, from that moment of creation, what we call the Big Bang, would then just actualize itself. But that's not really that important for our purpose. Look at the last word of Kiddush. Friday night Kiddush. That's a very important word. How do you translate the word lasos? How would you say lasos in English? To make, to do. It's an infinitive, right? It's a command. Now, that's very strange, because I could spend a lot of time with this puzzle. Vayevarach Elokim es yom hashvi. What does it mean, Vayevarach Elokim es yom hashvi? What did God do? He blessed it. I don't know about you. I don't know what the word blessing means. Is it like voodoo? What's a blessing? What's a blessing? So simple. Blessing means to have more of what you have. So Shabbos somehow is a blessing. We don't appreciate that yet. In Bereshis, we'll have to maybe come out later on. But it's a blessing of some sort. God blesses Shabbos, the 7th day. Vayekadesh oso. And what does he do to it? He is mekadesh the Shabbos. What does that mean? So we always should translate kadesh as sanctify. What does it mean to sanctify? What does it mean to sanctify? What does it mean? Holy. I don't know what holy means. These are words that we use all the time, but they don't mean anything. Right? So, Vayikadesh Oso is God made Shabbos. I'll give you an example. When a man pulls out a ring and says, Hare at mekudeshes li b'tabazo. So what's he doing? He's holying her? Mekudeshes li, may you be holy to me? What's he doing? So when a man gives a woman the tabas kiddushin, he's saying he's making this woman unique and distinct. There's lots of women in the world. There's millions of women. There's billions of women. But when a man says, you are unique and distinct to me. So that's why it's called kiddushin. There's something about this woman, unique and separate and distinct from all the women in the world. Oh, isn't that lovely? Right? So that's what God is saying about Shabbos. Shabbos is unique and distinct from all the other days of the week. That is what Vayikadesh also means. And we know that Shabbos is unique and distinct, right? Because God stopped to do malacha that God created. Now, lasos is a very strange word. Lasos appears to be superfluous in that passage. But there's something where first says lasos is that's actually perhaps a command on human beings that we need to do. Meaning, God did, and now what's left is for us to do. Maybe we'll touch on that a little bit later. Okay, Shemos in source 2. I'm not going to have time to do nearly as much as I wanted to cover, so I'm going to do the abridged version here. Source 2, it talks about man. It's actually really neat. What's the emphasis on man with having to do with Shabbos? So let's take a look for a second. Bnei Yisrael went out and they gathered lechem mishneh, means a double portion, no? A bread, right? 2 omer. Because what were they only allowed to take? 1 omer. Now, do they take what they needed, or they took what they wanted? It had to be the same thing. What happens if someone took too much? Became ichi. Wormies came, no? So Omer, is actually very good for a Srasa Omer. Omer is the portion of food that you need. That's what an Omer. That's why Srasa Omer has something very profound to it. This is the first source of Omer. And Omer is a measurement. Whatever the measurement is irrelevant. Omer is the amount that you were allowed to take per person per day to eat. What about if you wanted more? You couldn't take more. You didn't need more, so you didn't take more. And if you took more, it got ichi and moldy and you got in big trouble. So, this is very important. So you took it. If God says, imagine if I bring pizza to 200 people, and I say, okay, everybody, take one slice. Inevitably, maybe more males than females, be like, any leftover? Maybe I have one more. One slice. One slice is nothing, right? Maybe some people only have half a slice. I don't know. So, but what the Torah here is saying, everyone took the exact same portion. Hey, if everyone takes the exact same portion, and you couldn't take more, what does that teach you? What does that train you to do? Be happy with what you have. And think about other people. What are their needs? Same as yours. We all need the same. So what is the Omer teaching you? The Man teaching you a very important lesson in life. That is, take what's yours. Take what you need. God will provide you what you need, not what you want. It's a very important lesson in life. And now you understand, oh, wait a second, that's connected to Shabbos, because what's Shabbos all about? Don't mistreat other people, right? You can't do malacha, kids can't do malacha, Shev's do malacha, Amos can't do malacha. Also, this idea of Shabbos is mentioned, and what does God say? Tomorrow Shabbos, asher tofu efu, asher tevashelu bashelu. Meaning, if you wanted to bake, by the way, Bnei Yisrael could do with the man whatever they wanted. They could bake it, they could cook it, they could deep fry it, whatever they wanted, they could do with the man. But what did Moshe tell them? Whatever you want to do to the man, you got to do it on Friday. Shabbos needs preparation. You want to eat well? Prepare on Friday, because on Shabbos you can't cook. Already, the concept of not cooking and baking exists before the Mishkan, before the Aseret Dibros. Very important. Okay. Right, and they ate a portion. They left it over the next day, and no worms came. It's Shabbos. And also, look at Cafe, you're not going to find Lo Timtseu Basadeh. On 6 days you can go gather. On the 7th day you can't gather. And of course, there were some people who on Shabbos went out to gather, and God got very mad. And what does God say to them? Shvu ish tachtav al yitzeh ish mimkamo b'yom hashvi'i. Don't leave your place. This is the concept of Tchum Shabbos. You can't walk wherever you want on Shabbos. Forget the whole area of idea. You need to stay in your same city. What does this create? If you can't go somewhere else on Shabbos, what are we essentially creating? A situation of you got to be with your family. Isn't that neat? So when God says you can't leave your house, al yitzeh ish mimkamo, so you can't. People didn't realize halacha exists. You can't leave what's called Tchum Shabbos, which midurabanan is a paimamai. You can't leave. You cannot walk 2 kilometers outside your city, your village on Shabbos. In the modern world, it's not so practical because we all live in the same city, so you can walk 2 miles and not go anywhere in terms of the cities are so large. But if you lived in Israel in some yeshuv somewhere, you wouldn't be allowed to go to another yeshuv on Shabbos unless you built an eruv, or unless you put some bread out in the middle of a field somewhere and said, "Oh, that's where I'm going," and then you can extend it. But otherwise, you couldn't. So it essentially trapped you. You needed, which is great because how we know this intuitively. That Shabbos is about home and family and being together. You see, if you can't leave and travel, they force you to stay home. Time with your family. So that's part of the halachos. Okay, this is the major part. Uncle Moshe, I like to use Uncle Moshe as my example. Uncle Moshe is wonderful, but he also got us very confused. Because according to Uncle Moshe, he says, ain't going to work on Saturday. Double, triple pay. Ain't gonna work on Saturday because it's Shabbat. Many of you I'm sure know the song. Very important. When you're 6 years old, it's a great song. When you get older, it's a terrible song because you're allowed to work on Saturday. Anybody who takes physics in grade 11, grade 12, in high school, I don't know where you take physics, university, knows that work is what? measured in joules. And work is, if I move my arm like this, there's energy that's being created. Right? Imagine the following scenario, right? You're at home and your mother asks you, dear, would you mind sweeping the floor after Friday night meal? And you say, I'm sorry, Mom. She says, I ain't going to work on Saturday. Whatever, Friday night, whatever. Saturday morning, it doesn't matter. It's work. Setting a table doesn't work. Walking to shul doesn't work. Setting up a table for Shabbos, cleaning for Shabbos, that's work. So the answer, we all know this. You're allowed to work on Saturday. Of course you're allowed to do work on Shabbos. There's nothing wrong with working on Shabbos. At all. It might be a mitzvah to work on Shabbos. I know it sounds strange to say that, but it's true. What aren't you allowed to do on Shabbos? You can't do malacha. That's not the same. How do you say work in Hebrew? Avodah. You have to do avoda on Shabbos. You can't do malacha on Shabbos. What is the malacha that you're not allowed to do? You're not allowed to be creative on Shabbos. Again, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. What is the definition of creativity? The 39 malachos of the Mishkan. Because where is the first time in Chumash where it says, don't do malacha? Where's the first time in Chumash? Where we see there's a punishment if you violate and you do malacha. Guess where? It only makes sense to introduce this in which context? The context of the Mishkan. We do not see anywhere in Chumash this idea of will die if you do malacha until the Mishkan, which makes sense because that's its connection. So in source 3 it talks about 6 days work and do all your malacha, and then it says don't do malacha. But it doesn't say what's the problem if you do malacha, and there's no definition of malacha. So this word, don't do malacha, what does that mean? And this is very important. When it comes to creativity, what about if I do something that is destructive and not constructive? Is that considered an Yisur Doraisa? No, of course not. You cannot violate the malachas of Shabbos unless you do something constructive, productive, and positive. Because building the Mishkan is construction. If you did something destructive, it could be a Rabbanan. Okay, we'll forget the Rabbanans for now. It's not a biblical violation. What did you do? Rabbi Sachs asks a great question. Rabbi Sachs asks a question. He says, how come when it comes to creation of the world, there's only 30-odd psukim? When it comes to the building of the Mishkan, Trumat Tetzaver, the commandments, half of Kitisa from last week, Vayaka Pekudei. 4.5 parshios of building the Mishkan. Versus a 30-odd psukim of Briyas Olam. Why? And again, some is more psukim, more important. More psukim, more emphasis. The creation of the world! Says Rabbi Sachs, I think this is very important. The goal of the Jewish people is to create a world worthy of God's presence. How God created the world, and what? Who cares? It's not so relevant. But the notion that we need to create a world, that is what our job is. That's our mission. That's our mandate. So when we understand what is the creativity that we need to do in order to create such a world, that is something which the malachos of the Mishkan, again, what they are is not for our discussion right now, but these are the 39 malachos that were done to build the Mishkan, because these are the building blocks of the ultimate creativity. Follow? It's the ultimate creativity, because that is how we create God's world, or create a world worthy of God, is what I should really say. So, I can be creative doing X, but that's not a malacha. It's not Doraisa. Chances are it's probably Rabbanan. So I can't be creative. And what defines creativity? So that's why, you hear a lot of people, flicking on a light on and off. That's not work. You're right, but it is creativity. That being said, not. If it's for us, it's not Doraisa. But these are things we have to understand. Now you understand why writing is creative. And remember, erasing is only an issue Doraisa when what? You erase to write. Erasing just regularly, it's not Doraisa. Remember, you realize it. If you take a look, it's Melaches Machshavas Asra Torah. The Torah only forbids creative acts, because we are creatively creating the Mishkan. Okay. There's a lot more that I wanted to say, but I'm not going to. There is, of course, this connection between creating the Mishkan and creating the Mishkan, and creating the world. It's a given. It's so obvious, right? Because when we are creating, the same word is used, we are doing melacha during the week, and God stopped doing, how do you say stop doing melacha in Hebrew? Shabbos. So by we stop from being creative on Shabbos, that's a connection to Bria Olam. So we do ourselves. We are creative for 6 days, just like God was creative for 6 days. But then comes Shabbos and we stop to be creative. We enjoy what we did the first 6 days. Just like, if you don't prepare for Shabbos, you don't enjoy Shabbos. Now, what happens if all you did was create for 7 days? 7 days. 7 days without Shabbos. If all you did was be creative, so then you'd have no time for reflection, no time for purpose. I call this, lahavdil, the R&D of life. If a company doesn't invest in R&D, in research and development, then a company doesn't go bankrupt. Because if you have a company and you produce cameras, if you're not investing in the newest research and newest development, you'll go bankrupt because your camera will become obsolete. If you are not producing things online, you're not involved in technology, you're not figuring out what's going to be the next trend, your company will go bankrupt. I don't care if today you're making light bulbs. Those companies that made light bulbs that didn't make those environmentally friendly, long-lasting, you're bankrupt too. So not even as complicated as cell phones and technology. Even light bulbs, or tables, or I don't know what. If all you do is create, then you have no time to understand why you're doing it and where you're going and what's its purpose. That is Shabbos. Shabbos then, when you can't be creative, essentially is asking the question, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I being creative? And if on Shabbos I can't be creative, not because I value not being creative, because not being creative is more important than being creative. No! I value not being creative to give more meaning in my creativity. Do you hear the difference? I believe Shabbos gives meaning to the 6 days of the week. Totally different way of looking at it. That's why, by the way, Shabbos is the last day, not the first day. In what religion is Shabbos the first day of the week? Sunday. That's not a Jewish concept. The Jewish concept is you create, stop. Why'd you do what you just did? How is next week going to be better and different? Shabbos. Then you can go again another 6 days. Totally different hashkafa. Where I believe the purpose is actually 6 days of creation. Monday. But you need Shabbos. Why? Because Shabbos gives meaning to the other 6 days. If you go 6 days, we have no meaning, no purpose. What are we here? What are we here for? We have no time. We're running around like Michiganers. So Shabbos I call it the R&D, lahavdil, of life, of Jewish life. Yeah. Okay, so it's a great question. Why can't we look at it the following way? In order for me to give meaning to my 6 days, I have to be thinking about how many are meaningful. So if I find a good piece of meat on Tuesday, I'm going to say this for Shabbos. So what am I really working towards? Shabbos or Tuesday? Really? You could also argue, no. I'm making my Tuesday more meaningful because I'm looking for something that has more meaning on a Tuesday. Meaning, if Shabbos is the goal, right? Olam Haba can't be a goal. I'll tell you why. What happens after Olam Haba? Olam Haba is just a parking lot for your soul. It's Ches Mesim. Where's Ches Mesim? Olam Hazeh, no? Olam Haba is just a parking lot. Right? But ultimately, the purpose is this world. I'll give you an example. This is where halacha is really cool. Let's pretend this is actually a very good example. What happens if on Friday afternoon, forget this camera. This is like a battery from 1920. Let's pretend there's a battery on top of this book. Shabbos started. What has become of this book? Sebastius the Varasur. I can't move this book on Shabbos. What happens if this falls off Shabbos morning? Can I move this book Shabbos afternoon? No, because when Shabbos started, what happened? The reality is frozen. Isn't that cool? It's called Olam Haba. Meaning, just like in Olam Haba, whatever good things I accomplish, I can't do anything else because I'm dead. You follow? When I die, I can't do any more good things. Now, things that I did can still have an effect and have an effect in the world. Yes, that is true. But I, Aaron Greenberg, can't do anything new. I'm dead. Shabbos is Me'ein Olam Haba because reality is frozen. You can't cook anymore. Can't be creative anymore. Hey, it doesn't sound like life. So why Shabbos is almost like death? You hear this? Because you can't be creative anymore. I've now frozen this concept in time. It's basis devar asur. I can't change that. It's frozen. That's called death. No? You can't change things. Right? So those people that prepared properly for Shabbos can enjoy Shabbos. That's where you can enjoy Olam Haba. So to some extent on Shabbos you can only enjoy what you prepared for. Just like when you're dead, you're only going to enjoy whatever you've accomplished, you've done. Whatever you haven't done, it's the greatest tragedy in the world. You feel empty. I could have done all these things, I didn't do it. It's a terrible feeling. It's also a terrible feeling when you have no food for Shabbos because you didn't prepare properly. Right? Again, but that's why we say, you follow, that Shabbos is Me'olam Haba. There's an element to death on Shabbos. We don't realize that. Now, but that could also be a wonderful thing. Because if you prepare properly, Yom Shabbos, Menucha, it's wonderful to experience it. But you got to prepare. Just like you got to prepare for the ultimate day of death. Why are we talking about that? Oh, because that's just like no one's going to say death is a goal. The goal isn't to die.
Yeah, but then we look people like
To prepare for the... So I might prepare for an ultimate next level of my soul, Baruch Hu, but that gives meaning in this world. That right? I can't do any of those things when I'm dead. I can only do them when I'm alive. So in order to give me my death more meaning, I do them now.